Okay guys, now we're going to the 3000 grit polishing tape, and we want to run this completely dry. Completely dry. And here's how this is going to work. The first few passes we want to use a stropping motion. Just in case there is any burr, we don't want to cut the tape. After we do that a few times, then we can go into our sort of sawing motion. We really want to burnish this edge. Very, very light pressure. We have a 15-degree, fairly thin and razor sharp edge here. We don't want to roll it, we don't want to chip it, don't want to deflect it in any way. Now we're switching sides, we're going back to that stropping motion. Just in case there's a burr, we don't want to chew up our tape. And then we're going to go to town. The toughest area here in this polishing stage is going to be back in the hilt, immediately in front of that plunge grind. We're getting there. This is the second knife on this particular tape, and I can tell it is taking a little longer than it did on the first knife I did with it. And this is not the easiest steel in the world to sharpen, much less polish. Good old CPM M4. It's giving me fits freehand, and it's not super easy, even on the Apex. Oh my. Wow. Some very, very light passes here. Now we're going to go back to the 1000 grit stone, and we're going to put on a micro-bevel. That's going to be just the 1000 and the tape. And we're not going to take much material off at all. We're just going to set a micro-bevel that we can use when we resharpen or hone the knife later. So we're going to raise our fixture from the 15 to the 18-degree level, which will be the green notch. And here we go. 20. This micro bevel we want to just keep super consistent. One more full pressure pass on this side. Now we're going to do a quick deburring pass, about 10 real light strokes on each side. And then I'm going to go to the tape, and then I'll come back, I'll do that off camera, come back with the strap to show you how that's done. Okay gang, we're ready for the final stage of sharpening as I do it. What we're going to do at this point is use a leather strop. I have a double-sided leather strop with a rough side that has the gray jeweler's rouge and a smooth side with green. The gray has a little rougher grit than the green. I have mine on a piece of like the non-stick shelf lining, or non-skid shelf lining. It just helps keep the strop in one place on the table as I'm doing it. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to strop the main bevel, the 15-degree bevel that I put on, not for sharpness, just to kind of give it a final polish. It's sort of cosmetic only. And what I do is go alternating tip to hilt and then hilt to tip, just so I have a non-directional micro tooth in my blade. So I'm using a very, very, very shallow angle, just trying to polish what you see of that edge I put on with the Edgepro. Just do about 10 strokes on each side or so. What we're doing is taking those 3000 grit scratches from the polishing tape on the machine and taking them 2 steps more to achieve that mirror polish we're looking for. Now we're going to flip over to the green. As I'm doing this, I just wanted to discuss a little bit about why I strop a knife blade. Why I go to this degree to polish the edge. And don't get hung up on the terms, guys. What we're doing from start to finish is scratching the knife blade. In each progressively finer grit, we're removing the scratches put into the steel by the last grit and replacing them with finer scratches. So what we end up with is a continuous ribbon of sharp steel as you're going down the edge of the knife, like this, with the tooth of the knife minimized as much as possible. What that does, and now I'm gonna elevate my angle just a bit and polish the actual cutting edge, going back to the gray side. But what we're doing when we go to this level of polish is we're virtually eliminating tooth in the blade. Now, tooth is a good thing if you're cutting something like a tomato, where you have kind of a tough skin to get through, so your knife can then slice the soft meat. So there is a place for a toothy edge. However, with most of the cutting that I do, I'm not cutting something like a tomato, and I want my edge to last a long time. And if you can just envision this in your mind's eye, if you have a bunch of tiny little teeth standing up individually, not supporting each other, and you run into a media that's a little tough, each one of those teeth as it contacts the media is going to deform in some way. Whether it flattens or rolls or bends over. And the effect that that has as you cut is that your edge seems to degrade very quickly. You don't have a bunch of teeth lined up in a row ready to cut. You have this snarled mess of bent little tiny teeth. With a polished edge, you're relying solely on the sharpness of the knife to do your cutting. And because it's one continuous ribbon of sharp steel at your cutting edge, there's a lot of support on any given spot on that edge by the material that's adjacent to it. It's all connected. And I contend that a really, really sharp polished edge can cut something like the skin of a tomato almost as well as a toothy edge. But there's a lot of cutting that a toothy edge will not perform well in that a polished edge will. And the big deal is the polished edge will stay razor sharp and even working sharp much longer than the toothy edge. Plus, the polished edge looks so much nicer. That's not a factor of function, but it is important to me. Okay, we're finishing up here on the green side, on the fine side of my strop. And if you notice, I don't strop with one hand. I think this goes back to years of freehand sharpening. I use my offhand as just sort of an angle guide and to keep the pressure even across the surface of the blade. One thing very important when you're stropping, guys, I'm going to show this without my offhand, is you're coming to the end of the stroke. What you don't want to do is pick the blade up like that while it's still in contact with the strop. You can see that. What's it doing? Well, it's rounding off your edge. What you always want to do on a strop is when you get to the end of your stroke, either lift straight up or roll away from the edge. We don't want to ruin what we just spent an hour or so doing. So we're about done. I'll show you one little thing that I do right at the end. which is going to seem like it conflicts with what I just said, but I've been stropping at an angle about like this. What I'm going to do now is pick it up to maybe like a 45-degree angle and just do one stroke on each side using only the weight of the blade. Or maybe two. All I'm doing is just cleaning off any little tiny micro burr and getting any of the rouge or leather fragments off my edge. That should be a sharp knife. Let's see if it cuts. And again, full disclosure, this knife would not cut this flimsy catalog paper when I got done with it today. So let's see what we got now. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's almost no resistance at all going through that paper. There you have it. That's start to finish sharpening the Spyderco Gale Bradley on the Edgepro Apex sharpener, finishing on a leather strop. For all you sharp geeks out there, I would ask that you be kind. You know, sharpening is kind of a personal thing, and it's there are many ways to sharpen a knife as long as it gets there. And my technique certainly is evolving. I've only had this Edgepro Apex machine for a few days, and this is the 6th knife that I've sharpened. If there are some techniques or principles in what I've done in this video that help you, I'm happy to help. And if you saw something that I did that I might be able to do better to achieve a sharper edge, I'd be happy to hear about those too. But this is the level of my sharpening expertise as of March 26, 2013. And, my experience is probably valuable to some of you, and my mind is also willing to hear of any techniques you have that might help what I do. Stay tuned, guys. More sharpening videos to come, and I think very soon, within a few weeks, I'll be accepting work for sharpening. Don't know what that's going to cost yet. I would imagine the pricing will be tailored based on what you want, the condition of the knife as it comes to me, and the size of the knife. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it helped you, and grace and peace. Talk to you soon, guys.